Hello guys, what is up? My name is Dylan. Welcome to the Popcorn Podcast. I hope you're all doing fantastic as always. I hope everyone's had a great start to July. It's the start of a new month, and of course that means it's time for me to go over the previous month, go over everything that I watched, in this case the month of June. And yeah, if you are new to the channel, welcome, of course, again to the Popcorn Podcast. If this is a sort of a little series I'm doing on the channel where every month I go back and I deliver some quick thoughts, some quick opinions on some movies that I checked out the previous month. I think it's a great way to sort of get some of my thoughts out there on, you know, those movies that wouldn't necessarily get their own video made here on the channel. So yeah, that is that. So without further ado, let's jump on over to Letterboxd and check out everything that I watched in the month of June. So as you guys can see, I managed to log 25 new entries in the month of June. So a little behind schedule this month. It kind of feels like as the months are going on, I'm getting a lot more busy because, of course, if you've been tuning in since the start of this series, those beginning months of 2021, I was clocking in about 50 to 60 films, but of course those have gone down, but still 25, it's a decent amount, I guess. But regardless, over on the 1st of June, I checked out the new Disney live-action film, which of course is Cruella, starring Emma Stone as Cruella de Vil. I think she did a terrific job. I mean, it's Emma Stone, you know, she's an Oscar-winning actress. Not that that matters, but you know, of course, if you've seen any of her films, you know how talented she is as an actress. And of course, Glenn Close is who everyone sort of naturally remembers as Cruella de Vil. That is such a well-renowned role of hers and an iconic role, but I think Emma Stone really steps into the shoes of this character and embodies all of Cruella's signature characteristics, as well as, you know, giving this film something new and a bit of a different dynamic here. And I do say Emma Stone is terrific in this, but for me, and I think for quite a lot of people, the real star of this film is Emma Thompson, who is just terrific in this role of the Baroness, who is the main sort of antagonist in the film. Of course, if you have seen the film, you will know. I give it a 3 out of 5 stars, which I think is pretty good. I think the main triumphs of this movie are, of course, like I said, the performances, but also the production design, the costume design. And it's easy to sort of glance over, those kind of aspects when you're talking about movies, but I have to give a special shout out to that in Cruella because I think they're terrific. I'm talking like Oscar-worthy stuff here. But anyways, moving on the 4th, I rewatched again for the second time in the cinema, A Quiet Place Part 2. Now, of course, if you've seen my review, which I'll link down below in the description, you'll know that I'm a huge fan of this film. In fact, I think it's just as good as the first, and I think it comes down to a matter of preference, and I do overall prefer the sequel. And yeah, if you want my full thoughts, like I said, I'm going to leave the link to my video on that down below in the description box. On the 6th of June, I watched Love and Monsters on Netflix. This film stars Dylan O'Brien in a post-apocalyptic Earth. This was a fun watch, you know. It was a nice little break time sort of watch that I managed to check out. It's got a lot of heart. It's got a lot of color. There's a lot of vibrancy. I think it's a good adventure flick. I don't think it's anything amazing, but I think Dylan O'Brien does a great job. And the directing and the way the film is told is quite, it is quite energetic, and that's always great to see with these kind of films. The story is a bit predictable, and it's nothing you haven't really seen before. But yeah, solid though. 3 out of 5 stars for Love and Monsters. On the 7th, I finally watched The Florida Project. This is, of course, an A24 based produced film, and Yeah, I did really like this film. The only reason it's only a three and a half stars out of 5 is because I'm a bit conflicted on the ending and how the film wrapped up. But regardless, I think it's a really unique and heartbreaking story, and a very realistic story. I've seen a lot of people comment on this film and how and really question how true it is to what it's trying to depict in real life, and there seems to be a lot of merit there with regards to that. But yeah, the Florida Project, Willem Dafoe stars in it. I don't think this guy, at this point, I don't think Willem Dafoe could ever turn in a bad performance. He's just terrific in everything he does. Anyways, on the 8th, I watched Molly's Game for the first time. This is, of course, written and directed by Aaron Sorkin. And I've always thought that Aaron Sorkin is a far better writer than he is a director. I'm not saying his directing is bad, but, you know, I feel like for his scripts to really flourish, the ones that have tended to flourish more have been the ones where he has obviously been working with an acclaimed director, like, of course, David Fincher, who did The Social Network, or Danny Boyle with Steve Jobs. Molly's Game, it's a solid entry. I think Jessica Chastain is terrific. She's one of my favorite actresses. And Aaron Sorkin's script is, of course, razor sharp as always, and it's a little long, but the script makes the film feel a lot shorter than it is. So yeah, a solid entry, Molly's Game. Anyways, on the 9th, I rewatched 12 Angry Men, which is, of course, a masterpiece, probably the best dialogue-driven film ever made. And I showed this film to 2 of my mates, one of whom is doing law, and the other of which is just, of course, another fan of movies, and they both really liked it. So yeah, 12 Angry Men, it's a masterpiece, like I said. Anyways, on the 11th, I watched Yorgos Lanthimos's The Lobster. Now, I hadn't seen this one before, but I have seen Lanthimos's other films, 2 of his other films, The Favourite and The Killing of the Sacred Deer. And I had high expectations for The Lobster. I've heard nothing but great things about it, but I didn't love this one, surprisingly. You know, for me, there were a lot of problems that I just couldn't itch off. I think it's a really unique and very well directed film, and it's definitely something new, which I always appreciate. I think Yorgos Lanthimos is at this point a master behind the camera, and his visions are so unique and uniquely told. But The Lobster, I don't know, it just didn't really sit right with me. I get all the creative choices here were, of course, intentional, but the film has a lot to say about society and relationships and our place in relationships. And for a film that has a very sort of emotive theme, if that makes sense, a very humanistic theme, I found the performances, although they were very good and, of course, intentional, like I said, very monotonous and very cold. So I wasn't able to connect with it like I would have wanted to. But I still very much admire and respect this film. I will give this another watch, and let's see if that rating bumps up. Anyways, on the 12th, I watched Adventureland. This was a late night for me. It was something I just put on, and I just watched. I do like this film a lot. It's by the same people who did Superbad, but of course this is nowhere near as good as Superbad, but still solid. Moving on the 14th, I watched Edgar Wright's Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Rewatched this one. I don't think it's his best film, but it is certainly one of the most uniquely told and visually daring films that I have probably seen. It is very fucking cool to watch. And it's, you know, it's super entertaining, man. Like, even though I think the film has its issues, I still always have a lot of fun with Scott Pilgrim versus the World. So, of course, a 4 out of 5 stars for me. Anyways, on the 15th, I watched Wild Things for the first time, which stars Denise Richards. Of course, you have a lot of infamous Denise Richards scenes from this specific film. Neve Campbell and Kevin Bacon's in this as well. And this, look, it was entertaining, I'll give you that. But like I mentioned over here on Letterboxd, this film had more twists than a fucking pretzel. Like every 20 minutes there was some sort of plot twist. And because there were so many, because of the repetitive nature of them, it became a little less effective as the film went on, because you were basically looking out for them. But still, I get why this film is, of course, I don't want to say a classic, but it is, you know, a very well known film. It's it's a lot of people's guilty pleasures. But yeah, 2.5 out of 5 stars for me for Wild Things. On the 16th, I rewatched Batman Under the Red Hood, which is of course a DC animated flick. By the way, if you are into superhero films, if you are into comic book films and you haven't seen the DC animated films, you're missing out big time, because they're terrific. A lot of them are really, really good, and Batman Under the Red Hood is no exception here. I've always said, like my friends always ask me if you could ever make a superhero film, or you know, a DC film or whatever. What kind of movie what character would you like to direct or produce or whatever, and what would the story be? And I've always said Batman, because Batman is my favorite superhero, and the story I would pick is, of course, Under the Red Hood, which is of course based on the Death in the Family comic, which I think, and a lot of other people think, is one of the greatest Batman stories ever made. And yeah, if you haven't seen Batman Under the Red Hood, I highly recommend it. It's terrific. On the 17th, I watched Jarhead for the first time. Now, I was really excited to check this out. It's got Jake Gyllenhaal, who's one of my favorite actors, all-time favorite actors, and it has of course got Sam Mendes directing and Roger Deakins as the DOP, which that pair, Sam Mendes and Roger Deakins, has become easily one of my favorite creative duos in the industry. And I'm always excited to see whenever they collaborate. You know, they've done Skyfall, they've done 1917. So Jarhead, I was really looking forward to. I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. I think it's pretty great. Roger Deakins' cinematography is, of course, once again masterful. Sam Mendes does. I think this is a really unique film because it is a war film technically, but it never focuses on the action itself, but more so the environment that these soldiers are put in, and their sort of the way they cope with the situation. So on that basis, if you haven't seen Jarhead and you want to check it out, don't go in expecting an action film, because it is really not an action film. It's much more focused on the people in these wars, and Jake Gyllenhaal is terrific in it, and Roger Deakins. There is this big sequence towards the end of the film with these oil rigs, and I don't think I'll ever forget those images because they were just incredibly visually. I don't even know. I can't even put it into words. You just it's something you just have to see with your own eyes, and yeah, just wow. Anyways, on the 20th, I watched Dawn of the Dead, which is of course Zack Snyder's first attempt at a zombie flick. This is has become quite a cult classic, and I still really like Dawn of the Dead. You know, I think it's a solid film. I actually remember when I was very young. I must have been about 7 or 8 years old. One of my friends, my older friends, in when I was in primary school, told me about this film, and I shat myself just hearing what this story was, because obviously we were kids. But of course, rewatching this now, it's a lot of fun, even though it's a zombie flick. And of course, this is like I said, Zack Snyder's first attempt at a zombie flick. He did Army of the Dead, which came out I think last month. If you haven't checked that out, I think that's also solid. But this is still his more triumphant zombie flick, I think. But anyways, on the same day, on the 20th, I went to watch In the Heights, which is the latest movie musical, produced by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who this film is based on his Broadway stage show. And I have a lot of mixed feelings about this one, and I could go on about this film all day, but if you do want to hear my thoughts on it, I will leave a link to my review of it in the description box down below. I thought it was good. I might check it out again, see if my rating goes up, but I think I'm gonna stick with the 3 out of 5 stars for now. But anyways, on the 21st, I started my Fast and Furious rewatches. So the first Fast and Furious film, 3 out of 5 stars. It's a classic. I always like seeing Vin Diesel and Paul Walker in these roles. 21st, again, watched Too Fast, Too Furious. I think this is probably the weakest in the whole series, but I still did manage to find some enjoyment out of it. 22nd, I watched Tokyo Drift, which is of course a huge guilty pleasure. It's not great, but there's a warmth to it that I really like, and I always keep coming back to this one. Then Fast and Furious, which I also think is not amazing. I think it's really boring for a Fast and Furious film, and that never tends to be the case with these movies, because you have fucking street races and explosions and Vin Diesel. But this one, this is one of my least favorite ones in the series. But anyways, straight after that, Fast 5, which is still the undisputed king of this series. Fast 5, Fast 6, solid. This one takes place in London, which is of course where I am. So I always have a smile on my face when I'm watching Fast and Furious 6. Fast and Furious 7. Furious 7 is probably the second best in the series. It's of course the last one with Paul Walker, and Jason Statham is in this one. And I think it's directed by James Wan as well, who brings a fresh take to the directive force behind the camera. And I've always liked Fast and Furious 7. I think it has one of the most emotionally touching conclusions to a film ever, maybe. Then in the night, to finish that off, I watched The Fate of the Furious, which is of course Fast and Furious 8. I think this one gets too much hate. I hated this one the first time I watched it. I thought it was just trash, but on the rewatch, didn't think it was that bad. But anyways, of course, all these movies, all these rewatches were of course leading up to Fast and Furious 9, which I watched on the 24th, and as you can see by my 2.5 star rating, wasn't great. But I will leave a link to my review of it down in the description box, so you can check it out if you haven't done so. Anyways, on the 26th, I watched Adrift. This is based on a true story film starring Sam Claflin and Shailene Woodley. And I think Shailene Woodley is probably the best part about this film. Oh, that and Robert Richardson's beautiful cinematography. But this one just didn't do it for me. I'm sorry, guys. From a story perspective, the structure is a little all over the place, in the sense it takes some of the momentum out of the story, and I didn't think that the romance, the chemistry between Shailene Woodley and Sam Claflin was anything remarkable, and it just left me feeling a little bored, a little cold, and not that able to sort of connect with these characters and the situation that they find themselves in. But I do admire the real people behind this story. There is a nice sort of epilogue sequence, little epilogue scene that happens at the end of the film, which I think was probably the best part of the film. Anyways, on the 30th of June, my last film in the month of June 2021 was the Netflix comedy special by Bo Burnham. Now, Bo Burnham is someone I haven't really sort of, I wouldn't say I'm not a fan of him. I just haven't. I'm not as familiar with his work as I'd say people in the States are. But after having watched this, I think this film that it is a film. I think it's absolutely terrific what he has done here. The soundtrack, the songs, I'm listening to them every day at this point. I think he is such a talent in the industry, and I cannot wait to see what he does next. I mean, this is, for those of you who don't know what this is a comedy special that Bo Burnham made in quarantine in one room, and you would think that is such a dull and boring premise, but he injects so much personality, so much visual flair, so much humor, and so much heart, and so much sadness, and there's a plethora of emotions here, and the stuff he is, of course, trying to communicate and what he's trying to say, a lot of that stuff really resonated with me, and I really loved this film, Bo Burnham Inside. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I do think the latter half of it wasn't as good as the first half, but still overall a terrific comedy special by Bo Burnham, and definitely someone I'm going to be checking out more of their work from. So that is it, guys. That is my month of June wrapped up. Let me know what you saw in the month of June as well. What were some of your favorite watches? Were there any on this list here that you really enjoy or you really don't like? Let me know. I'd love to hear. And of course, once again, if you are new to the channel, consider subscribing to the Popcorn Podcast to jump on board. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching the video. I can't wait to go out and make some more in the next coming weeks. This week we have Black Widow finally coming out, so I will have a review out for that either Wednesday or Thursday of this week, so stay tuned for that. And of course, as always, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you very soon in the next video.